on down.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. So Gibu, thanks for joining us, by the way. But what I found interesting researching this panel is that you have a very interesting background. You were kind of early in mobile web browsers. You were the developer. You founded BlueLark, which made the Blazor browser for the Palm Trio. Amazing. And then you co-founded and were CEO of SugarSync, which did cloud syncing and stuff. Long before everybody was talking about Dropbox and Box. So I'm kind of wondering what led you to Walmart and to Walmart Labs, their whole digital initiative there.
Yeah, Walmart is going through a massive transformation. Retailers are going through a massive transformation. The customer is changing. And one of the realizations that Walmart had was that we needed to be as good in technology as we're in retail. And Walmart's a very entrepreneurial company, hard as it is to believe for a $470 billion company. It's a very entrepreneurial company that's reinvented itself many times. And so the thing that was fascinating as a challenge is how can you be an entrepreneur within a large company, take advantage of the scale and the audience and things that it brings with it, without all the big company stuff that, that usually deter entrepreneurs from going to big companies. And with Walmart Labs, we've been able to create that, and it's been a fascinating journey.
Cool. So can you explain what is Walmart Labs? It sounds like it's an accelerator, but it's also something where you're developing new technologies for the company? Yeah,
so Walmart Labs is all of technology at Walmart as it relates to e-commerce and transforming our in-store experiences from a customer-facing standpoint. So we build and maintain all the sites for our e-commerce business around the world, and we operate in many different countries. As well as one of the most fascinating opportunities that we're really excited about is shopping in a store is still a very analog experience. It's sort of like catalog shopping before e-commerce came along, and so with a physical catalog, a book. And
the world is your catalog, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we have a real opportunity to kind of transform that. So all that work is done within Walmart Labs, and it also gives us an excuse to call ourselves and experiment a little bit, call ourselves a different name, experiment a little bit in terms of what's the right culture for someone in Silicon Valley versus someone who works in the store organization and so on.
And so what have been the results of that?
It's been amazing. From a talent standpoint, we've had a tremendous amount of success. The pitch of that we make to people that you can come as an entrepreneur and build a big company within Walmart has really worked. And so they're great. We've done about, I think, over 13 acquisitions in the last couple of years. Most of those acquisitions, I mean, a great example is we acquired a 2-person startup called Grabble from Australia. It was just 2 smart guys that had built an e-receipts technology. They were in the Valley pitching to different investors. We found them, we acquired them, and now that e-receipts technology is being rolled out to all of the stores in the US and around the world. 140 million people a week will get access to their that technology. So that's been a very successful story, and that's just one of the examples. In terms of capabilities and business impact too, I mean, we've had so many success stories that people have worked on that they could individually point to that then gets their friends to want to come work at Walmart as well.
Gotcha. So you kind of have a great background, and you're working at one of the biggest retail companies in the world. What are the problems you're seeing retailers facing today, and how has Walmart approached that, both with the labs and other solutions?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest the challenge is that the customer changed very fast. I think for old folks like us who have been in mobile for a long time, this impact that mobile is going to have in transforming businesses was something we talked about for many years, and then all of a sudden it just happened, and it just it's an avalanche, and so a lot of companies were caught flat-footed in that, and I think retailers are definitely part of that group as well. And so a lot of it's a different muscle to kind of build stores and run stores, which is a very hard problem, and get the right product to the right shelf. And you've been in retail, so you know this.
I used to work for Office Max. Remember them?
There you go. Yeah, and then thinking about technology and how do you build great technology, how do you build great customer experiences and so on. So Walmart really embraced that. And so we think of ourselves as a tech company now, and we've had success in doing that. And I think other people have to do the same thing. And if retailers can't do that, the ones that can't do that, I think risk being left behind.
I think up until this point, it seems like the retail sales world and the online digital sales world have been very separate. But I've noticed that you guys have been making strides towards kind of uniting that. How do you see that working down the line? Do you think there will be even a separation between retail and digital? I mean, I think it's a legacy issue more than it's how customers want to shop, right? So if my microwave broke and I wanted to buy a new microwave, what I care about is, can I get it faster and cheaper and more conveniently than anywhere else? And so whether that product comes from a store that's 5 miles away from me, or whether it's coming from a distribution center, it's sort of a nuance that most customers don't care about as long as it's faster and cheaper. So a lot of what we're trying to do is to blend the distinction between the channels. So similarly, I mean, sometimes a lot of our orders are picked up in stores, and that's a convenience people like, because sometimes it's two working parents and they're not at home when the delivery person comes and so on. So they like the convenience of coming to the store and picking up the product. But again, they're using technology. We can really make a difference by anticipating when the customer is coming, having the order ready for them, so on and so forth. So I think it's more about friction for shopping than about what channels customers engage in. Sure. People, I guess they don't care how it gets to them. They want to get their thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think online channel has done a really good job of removing friction for customers with a lot of innovations. And the in-store channel is behind. And so as we catch up in technology, enabling a digital experience in a store and blending those two channels together, I think the distinction will become less relevant.
Gotcha. You mentioned an interesting stat when we were talking before. Right now, 20% of Walmart stores are also being used as online fulfillment centers, and eventually that number is actually going to increase. Can you talk about how that works and how, is that a big advantage for Walmart compared to other retailers?
We think so. We have 10,000 plus stores around the world. In the US, we have 4,000 plus stores, and over 70% of the US population lives within 5 miles of a Walmart store. There's some stat that I may be off a little bit here.
Not me in New York, but yeah, everybody else.
Right, exactly. And so I do think that what it allows us to do is we can get product faster and cheaper to customers than other folks can. And so as we think about how do we connect products to customers, we think about taking advantage of our stores. We have distribution centers that are online-only distribution centers. We have a best-in-class transportation fleet. So we definitely think that the proximity of the product to customer gives us an advantage in terms of getting products to customers faster and cheaper.
Gotcha. Is there going to be eventually, I guess, no distinction between retail inventory and inventory for online sales? I guess it's just one big block of inventory and you get it however you can?
Yeah, I mean, I think customers don't, so if customers don't care about it, we shouldn't care about it, right? And I think some of this is, interesting, right? It's the legacy of systems that have been created in different ways and managed in different ways and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, those are details that the customer doesn't care about. If a product is available 5 miles from, that you're looking for is available 5 miles from where you are, why would I ship it from a place that's 200, 300 miles away and spend the money to get that product to you and the time to get that product to you? We should get it to you from that store to you the same day or the next day, at a very low cost.
You guys launched a really interesting feature to something called Store Mode, which makes it, using the Walmart app, it gives people information as they're shopping. Can you tell me, how is that, how have users accepted that, and where do you think the technology you're going to offer users is going to go in the future? Yeah,
so as I said, transforming in-store experience, shopping experience is a big focus for us. And one of the challenges for us versus e-commerce, because there are other people that have done e-commerce pretty well. So when Walmart thinks about doing e-commerce, we've always had a history from the Sam Walton days of learning from the best. And so we learn from our competitors. There's a playbook that we can execute and then augment with our own inventions. When you think about transforming shopping in a store, I came to the US 20 years ago, and the way I shop in a store has not changed in those 20 years. You still walk the aisles, you still go to a cashier. It's substantially the same experience. And so getting people that have been shopping the same way for many years to change requires exponentially better experiences. How do you make it as natural for a customer to want to pull out their smartphone when they get to a store, just as you would if you're trying to navigate from point A to point B? And so that behavior will only be instilled if the tools that we build are so indispensable for the customer. So when we thought about it, we thought, well, we have an app that has a bunch of e-commerce stuff, and the store features that people care about are very different. So one of the debates was, should we launch 2 apps? But then we were like, it's the same customer. And so we had to come up with a clever way to surface things that are relevant for the customer in the store, only when they're in the store, but also have e-commerce accessible to them. So we geofence all the stores, and when the geofence is triggered, the app interface transforms itself to surface in-store capabilities. And it's been a fascinating learning experience. I think within a couple of weeks of us launching it, something like 60 or 70% of people were using store mode for app users. So it became very natural to them. And there's a lot of features like savings cash and e-receipts and lots of things that are within that store mode.
Gotcha. I saw an interesting stat too from Walmart around Thanksgiving. You guys said 53% of your traffic over that holiday weekend came from mobile users, which seems like kind of a milestone moment for you guys. Was that just an organic growth, or did you kind of push mobile more this holiday season?
It's very organic, and I think it's one of the fascinating things. When I first came to Walmart, people would be like, well, all that sounds interesting, this mobile stuff, but is our customer, or even other people would ask, is a Walmart customer really mobile? Because there is sort of, people think a certain way when they think about a Walmart customer, perhaps lower income, maybe not as tech savvy, et cetera. But the point is, right, 80% of people under the age of 35 that shop at a Walmart store has a smartphone. 65% of mainstream population that shop at Walmart have a smartphone. So it's pretty mainstream, and if you deliver value to them on a smartphone, as we've seen with every other app that have gotten massive adoption, people engage with it. So it's a pure organic growth, and we expect a much higher number this year because it's always with the customer. And so going back to the point about removing friction for shopping, if you have a device that you can act on the second you feel that urge to research a product or buy a product, that's good for us from a business standpoint.
Gotcha. One other thing Walmart is well known for is having very low prices and kind of having mechanisms with suppliers to achieve those prices. But when it comes to online sales and digital, it seems like everybody can have low prices because everybody can take advantage of those mechanisms. Is that still a focus for Walmart now?
Low prices are table stakes, right? That's what our brand is built on. I think that delivering low prices is not simple. You have to have an operation that's low cost to be able to deliver that low price and still make money. We've proven ourselves over the years that we're pretty good at it. And so it will continue to be important. And part of it is, I think, there is also more price transparency. So in the past, how customers found that something was cheaper in another store was driving to that store, and there was a friction involved in that. So we've had to build tools to make sure that we're doing real-time price auditing of competitors and so on. And then we've launched things like Savings Catcher, where if you go to a store and you shop at Walmart, and if the stuff you bought happened to be cheaper at another store, we'll automatically refund you the difference without you having to do anything. So also building that trust with them that, even in the cases where we get beat once or twice on 1 or 2 items, you can still trust Walmart to be that low price destination. So you don't have to drive around or browse multiple sites to find the cheapest price.
One thing I've noticed talking to a lot of retailers and mobile app distributors is that context is becoming more and more important for companies. What is Walmart views the most important context to pay attention to? And what are your customers doing that you think is actually that interesting to to follow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so the store, out of store, in-store context is very important. Location is, in other words, is a very important context. And especially as you think about, product coming to to your home versus going to the store. So location is an important dimension. But, what customers' needs are, what they gravitate towards, how do you make these tools indispensable for them? So savings has been a theme that's universal, whether you're rich, whether you're not rich. Things that relate to savings that we're building have incredible resonance with customers. Just in general, the trend that you're seeing, especially in a store context, is a lot of the work that associates did to assist customers can be augmented with technology, and that knowledge base doesn't leave the door when that employee turns over.
Right.
So there's incredible operational efficiencies that come from that, which also you can pass on to customers or make customers shop, with less time and save more money, et cetera. So.
Also, I'm wondering, how does Walmart deliver all this information to people without overwhelming them? Because you have, a really wide and diverse audience, and not everybody is tech savvy. I don't know if, they may have smartphones, but they may not be using them the way everybody here is. How do you approach that when you're designing the products and services now? It's
very hard, and I think, and if there are any recruiters in the room, I want them to close their ears right now. But one of the things that I'm really proud of is that we have built possibly one of the best talent bases in mobile, not just relative to retailers, but relative to best-in-class companies. And so when you have great consumer internet and mobile talent that knows how to build products that customers want to use, that's a big starting point. And then there are things where we leverage personalization, we leverage other things to make sure that the customer has access to everything, but what's in front of them on that small screen is more than likely what they want to use. So being predictive about some of those kinds of things. So it's a combination of great talent, technology, experimentation. We don't always get it right, so there's definitely some experimentation involved. But it is the fascinating challenge that keeps us all excited coming into work every day.
Cool. We have time for a couple questions if anybody has them. I think there are mics around. Just raise your hands if you have questions. So we wait for those. I don't know. I don't see any. No questions? Okay. Oh, yes, up front here. And say who you are and where you're from.
Laura Hansen, Quasi Technology. Just to follow up on a question you just raised, as far as not inundating the customer across different channels, how are you recognizing the customer across different channels in real time and then differentiating how you want to communicate back to them?
Thank you. So part of it is, like I said, location and context helps, right? Whether the customer is in a store, whether the customer is online. We have customer identity, so it helps, obviously, a universal customer identity across online and offline. That also helps us know their behaviors, what their propensity to shop. If you're in a store, if you're coming to a store, we know if you're coming to pick up an order that you place online, right? Versus, or if you had a pharmacy order that you had placed, versus you're just coming in to shop in the store. We can predict that with reasonable accuracy, which allows us to then surface the right things for the customer in that context.
Gotcha. Any more questions? In the back? Sorry, mic runner.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Who are you and where are you from?
Good. Clay from Starwood Hotels. So a question for Walmart. How do you think about talent? How do you think about startup acquisition from a standpoint of product versus talent to add to your team, like you just referenced, obviously Cosmics and others?
Yeah, it's both. So we look at great talent and we look at great products. So, Voodoo, which is a movie streaming service that is within my group, was a product and talent acquisition. Grabble, the e-receipts technology that I talked about, was a product and talent acquisition. cost mix, there's been product aspects to it, but also heavily talent acquisition. So it depends. Talent is a baseline. If we have great talent, we would definitely look at that company. And then if there's a product that helps us accelerate something that we already want to do, that's just, that makes it a no-brainer.
So in the cultural environment of Walmart and Bentonville, and this is coming from a big corporate environment of a hotel company, how do you think about selling something like that into the mothership as opposed to a labs?
Yeah, it's funny. Every person who works at Walmart is a Walmart associate. I did the Cosmix acquisition early on, and we took the folks to Bentonville to show them what makes Walmart Walmart and what makes Walmart great, and then we give people an environment in Silicon Valley where they can innovate, and the things that they're working on are not a pilot, a labs, prototype type of thing. It's actually stuff that's going to hundreds of millions of people that is a broad Walmart audience. So it actually works out really well by taking the best of Silicon Valley and that environment to allow people to innovate, and then applying that in the context and scale of the 140 million people that shop with us every week has been a good marriage, and we've been pretty successful at it. Most people that have come are still there. Some of the leaders, technology leaders in our company, all came through acquisitions, and they're very happy, and they've brought other people, so it's worked out pretty well. It's a hard balance, so I agree. I'll grant you that it's a hard balance, and we had to learn our way to get there. But partly, we didn't transplant a retailer in Silicon Valley. We built with native, I'm a Silicon Valley person, I'm not a retailer, so people like me, there are a lot of people like me that are native Silicon Valley people that have done startups that have helped with that transformation.
Excellent. Well, I'm gonna have to cut it off here, but find Gibu as he's walking around. Thanks, everybody, and thanks, Gibu.
Thank you. Great chat. Thank you.
Yep.